Welcome, everybody, to our online seminar today, which is entitled Drawing Economic Benefits from the Use of Energy. My name is Willington Ortiz. I'm a researcher at the Wuppertal Institute for Climate, Environment, and Energy, and I will have the pleasure to moderate the conversation today. This online seminar is the third one of a series of seminars that we are co-producing with our Partners Access Coalition, and where we are highlighting how energy access can really impact sustainable development impacts. The webinar today will delve into the question, how can energy access initiative effectively strengthen the economic activities of people? And in general terms, you know that the links between energy and economic development seems quite straightforward. Energy is a very crucial production factor of any economic activity. However, in order to effectively empower economic development, energy access is not enough. You need to use energy in a productive way. And this seems to be a very easy to understand thing, but our research had it's a couple of years ago had shown that making the real connections between energy and the productive opportunities of people and is not necessarily a straightforward function. And in order to learn about this issue, we have the fortune of having three speakers today with long experience in the energy access field. I need also to say that we have had a little bit of difficulties technically, so I will now. But first of all, I will remember you that we have two blocks. In the first block, our speakers will present some inputs regarding to questions that we propose to them, and in the second block, we want to start a discussion with our panelists. So please. Use the chat function to make questions, and that we will be happy to bring them into the discussion. So let me first try to connect again to Luciana. Luciana, are you there? As I mentioned, we have some difficulty.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, perfectly, Luciana. I am very happy that you managed to set up the microphone. So, Luciana is, you can probably start. So I invite you now to the stage and invite you to bring your presentation. My colleague will give you the technical hints for making that. Luciana is co-founder and president of the Foundation 500 RPMs. It's an NGO in Argentina dedicated to technological transfer of wind turbines. She has led more than 60 projects in Argentina, Chile, Uruguay, Mexico. And some of the most recent projects from 500 RPMs have been specifically aiming at developing and testing models for productive uses of energy. So you have been working with groups of farmers in the Argentinian Patagonia, Luciana, and how does energy access supported economic development there in that case? How was your approach to that?
Okay, so sorry, I'm Willington, I can't hear you very well, but okay. I can put my presentation here because I'm in the cell phone.
Okay.
But
we will put your presentation.
Yeah, please. Thank you very much. Thank you all of you to be here today. It's very early in Argentina right now, so me and my computer are not very well waking up yet.
Okay, we are setting your presentation now, so please go through, Luciana. Thank you for being here.
Okay, thank you. Well, as Willington said, we work to make small wind energy a massive, accessible, and local rural electrification technology in Argentina and Latin American region. And we do this through education and technology transfer projects and rural development projects, and also research and development initiatives. In that way, I would like to share with you today, the next, please. This project, which is called Strawberries of the Wind, Keyen Kuruf in Mapuche language, which try to put wind energy to promote the development of Mapuche communities in Patagonian steppe, with access to water for sustainable horticulture. And we work together with INTA in this project, which is the National Institute of Agricultural Technology. The next. To introduce you, this is the Patagonian steppe. look like a desert, but they have water, they have a lot of wind, and they have some skills to share with us, small producers. And we are creating yet productive units like this one, which work to be technically and financially sustainable. So we pump water with a wind turbine, and we storage the water to with a system of irrigation, drip irrigation, plant some strawberries mainly in microtunnels. And this is basically the systems we are installing, and our installations in 1,000 or between 1,000 and 2,500 square meters of plantation. Next, please. Well, the project motivations, dream, and challenges. We started thinking in energy, in wind energy, as development vector, mainly because this is a place in which they have one of the best winds of the world, and trying to shift the productive paradigm to horticulture from sheep and goat production they have, which is unprofitable at this moment for the 90%, 95% of the small producers of the steppe. So, and also this production has a negative impact for the environment. And also trying to go to sustainable and profitable crops. The dream is become the Patagonia in a productive area, such as we have the productive pampas here, which is very famous in the world. And that's why we need to change also the minds of the people living there that think this is a desert, and it's not. So the challenges to reach this is arrive to access to appropriate technologies and practices, and for that we work hard in training and investment, and in the follow-up, the accompaniment of the projects. Please, the next. Well, this is the issue. This is our delivery model in this project. It's a centralized management for us, but with diversified actors playing the game. So we have initial investment coming from different donors, and not only companies and international cooperation, public calls, but we are working to arrive to end user as initial investment too. And also we are thinking in the finance system to for credits for the small producers in terms of inclusion, financial inclusion. The actions I would like to spotlight, to highlight here, that the wind turbines are building in practical trainings in technical schools. This is in local technical schools. This is a way to spread the knowledge. The installation and of wind turbines and water pumping are made by us. And the INTA is the actor who dimension and train in the productive and irrigation systems to the producers. Then there is a hard work of the beneficiaries who work the land, prepare the land, and management the production and the sales. And they have training from us and from the INTA and other actors for that. And then the marketing, we help them with that, but mainly is made by the beneficiaries too. About technical sustainability, I would like to highlight that we create local maintenance groups to work with the energy and water pumping systems there. And we are helping also the INTA in the accompaniment and monitoring of the production management, because they do this job, but we create also a local group to help them with that. And the project management and monitoring is led by us. And finally, the financial sustainability of the projects is made by the profits generated by the project, which is one of the main goals that we will get with this project. So this is more or less the project. And here we have some pictures of the building, and please continue. It's just to have an idea of what we are doing there. Installation of the wind turbine, the storage system, the pumping system, the next, and the productive system. This is the irrigation system, working in the plantation, and the micro tunnels. Just planted and right now, and one of the producers. And the marketing and sales things, we work it, and tell you that we have made 2 projects of this, and we are working in 4 more this year. So we have funds to continue improving and growing up in this project to become this region in a productive area. Here are the spots. So thank you very much.
Thank you for presenting us a very small illustration of this project in this very beautiful place. I know that you have a lot of more details to tell us, but thank you for this approach of working together with other institutions to make this kind of delivery model sustainable and also feasible for the producers. I would like to jump directly to our next speaker, who is Victor Gathogo. Victor, you are welcome to come on the stage. Victor is energy advisor with a long experience in the field, and currently working for SNV and leading the implementation of the Energizing Development project there in Kenya, which aims to accelerate energy services through the supply and distribution of quality of grid solar products and services. Victor, SNV is, of course, a well-known organization because the long and multiple field experiences, not only in energy, that's very interesting for SNV, and working very close to communities. From your practical experience, what are those productive activities that can be effectively improved through energy access? How is your approach in Kenya? We're very interested to know more about your program.
Thanks a lot, Wellington, and a good afternoon to everybody who's tuning in, who's logging in from wherever you are. It's right now, it's in the afternoon here in Nairobi, Kenya. So good afternoon all, but depending on where you're tuning in, maybe morning for the case of Luciana and the rest of us who've joined in. I'll start off by introducing myself. My name is Victor Gathogo, as mentioned. And I work with SNV. I'll briefly go through the presentation, but let me first just give an introduction on who SNV is. SNV is a Dutch organization. Actually, we were started here in Kenya in 1965, and we refer to ourselves as the Netherlands Development Organization. And we operate globally with our work in the energy, agri-food systems and water in 24 countries, and we have a total staff of over 1,200. And what we do is we have projects that make a lasting difference for millions of people living in poverty. Our mission, of course, is to strengthen capacities and catalyze partnerships that transform the food, energy, and water systems, as I mentioned. And our vision is to promote a world where across every society, all people live with dignity and have equitable opportunities to sustainably thrive. So Wellington, I'll want to jump into my slide. I don't know if you'll be able to control for me, or should I?
No, you are on the control. Yeah, you can put your.
Okay, fantastic. So thanks a lot. I'll present basically on what we're doing here in Kenya through the Energizing Development Project, where, as Wellington has mentioned, I'm a lead advisor, focusing on working with the government on promoting the enabling environment, but also looking at working with business, particularly the medium-scale businesses, to promote adoption and the use of quality, productive use of energy appliances. So as I mentioned, I'll skip that. I'll go into directly what we are doing here in Kenya. And through the project, we've been able to actually promote the use of productive use of energy appliances. And these appliances have been able to really empower Kenyans. Just to let you know that we have 40% of the Kenyan population being employed in agriculture, and we have a large untapped value in solar water pumping and cooling technologies. And of course, we've seen that through this sector of agriculture that relies a lot on solar water pumping and cooling, there's opportunities to overlook other sectors. So this project, through the end of project, we are promoting the use of quite a number of 40+ categories of solar appliances. And before you, in that table, you can see we are promoting the use of appliances that empower specifically rural households when it comes to agricultural value chains, addressing issues on post-harvest losses, addressing issues of storage, but also addressing issues of food production. So in the agricultural sector or in agricultural production, we are promoting technologies in solar water pumping, irrigation, and spraying. We also have technologies in agriculture post-harvesting, processing, and storage. For example, technologies like milling, hulling, threshing, crushing, those machines that are used to make paste, oil pressing, cold room, and refrigeration. And all these appliances are meant to basically, as we define PUE from our end, is basically to, the use of the appliances to use energy, and that energy is used by the end users to either increase income or increase productivity, and that is the end of definition. We also have other technologies, as you can see, in dairy and poultry livestock, like we are working with private sector here in Kenya to promote, but also to create awareness about, working cold rooms. We have last mile refrigeration services, especially in those regions that are in weak grid or off grid regions, ice making machines, milk tanks that are, cooled using solar, but also egg incubators, water pumps, and electric fence. We also have the same in fishing sector here in Kenya, where a number of fishermen are using fishing lights at night to fish. but also in light, small commerce and other restaurants and hospitality, where you have quite a number of technologies that are being used by these sectors. And just to explain to you how our market looks like, actually, we recently did a market assessment study, which Willington will be sharing with you the link. And we basically wanted to understand what the market is like. And this was first of the many publications that SNV was able to pioneer when it comes to the Kenyan productive use space. And we did note that there are quite a number of drivers that are, that are allowing this sector to grow in Kenya. And actually in East Africa, Kenya, in many workshops and many forums, has been hailed to be leading in the sector. So we have quite a number, actually we mapped over 100 companies in the off-grid sector that are expanding into appliance space. And as you can see in the picture there, for example, this is one of the company here in Kenya called Mwezi Solar that actually is trialing the use of solar egg incubators, especially for poultry farmers here in Kenya. And also we've seen a case whereby this company has been able to sell quite a number of these technologies to poultry farmers. And these people have been able to capitalize on these technologies. Also, Kenya is hailing on pay-as-you-go models, actually looking at the penetration of mobile phones and the penetration of mobile money wallets has really led to the scaling up of these technologies in Kenya. But also in the recent past, we've seen large investments in the off-grid seller, especially in the last mile distributors, where we've had limited financial availability. So leveraging on climate finance, we've seen that growing, but also quite a number of other issues that have really facilitated this sector to grow. Like, for example, companies are targeting high volume sales, rendering larger and more productive appliances as a mismatch. We've also seen distribution networks that are growing. Example, we've seen companies that are bundling up solar productive use appliances with other products, but also in Kenya, the connectivity, the phone and Wi-Fi has been an enabler. And of course, the government has come in to exempt some of these technologies, although appliances are not. Some of other drivers, just to dig into the issues, especially when it comes to component system-based solutions. For example, on your right there, you'll see a gentleman here holding a solar hair clipper. Is that there's demand, of course, in the agriculture, dairy, livestock, and poultry and fishing, as we've seen in the past. Of course, with the current discussion about climate change, the fuel replacing, for example, solar, replacing diesel-powered pumps with solar has been a drive. But also we've seen well-developed over-the-counter sales networks in Kenya. But also just to note that there are dozens of niche appliances providing niche applications to end users. Of course, there are quite a number of other drivers. For example, improvements in efficient AC appliances. This we've seen in solar home systems. Although some of the other things that we're encountering is low consumer awareness, and therefore through the end of project, we are trying to really bridge the gap when it comes to consumer awareness. Other things that we've noted is that taxes, of course, electric offers OPEX savings, but requires behavior change. We've seen quite a number of operational costs that are, it provides savings in terms of operational costs, but of course, we need to discuss with the end users on how they change their behaviors. Of course, we've also noted that there's...
Sorry, Victor.
Yes.
Just to remind, we have still like 1-2 minutes. So that
okay, fine. Yes, I'm almost finishing. Yeah, so okay. These slides will be shared, but I may not read through and explain through all the examples, but just to take you through the slide is that we also have mini-grid sector that is growing here. And of course, the mini-grid sector here in Kenya, we are trying to bundle it up with productive users of energy. And just to give an example is, for example, where we are testing electric pressure cookers as productive use technologies to be bundled up with the mini-grid sector. So in Kenya, it's actually a complex ecosystem. And that picture basically showcasing how complex it is. We've tried to categorize it further from the power source to the appliance to the market application. And from the power source, you have plug and play, component systems, and mini-grid systems. Then The value proposition, which ties to the webinar today, is basically highlighting the economic opportunities that come with use of these technologies. So what we're actually trying to build the consumer or the value proposition to the end user is that it of course saves time, reduces the burden of drudgery through mechanization, fuel replacement, and opportunities for new businesses. There are quite a number of lessons that I'll want to share, particularly three, that we've seen changes in policy and regulation in the Kenyan space, and that has really enabled the growth of the POS sector in Kenya. For example, the government is very supportive of the vibrant mobile money sector, supporting payments through credit, for example, through PayGo, but also looking at a number of policy and regulatory frameworks that are captured in the slides there. Of course, you have mini-grid regulations that are still in the pipeline, but also looking at the national electrification strategy that promotes the the use of POE appliances in the agriculture sector. Of course, the Kenyan market, we're also leveraging on financing. There are other new opportunities. So financing drives uptake, but the key thing here, the key message that I want to pass across is that we've seen consumer financing is either in-house or non-existent, but these companies actually are leveraging on the opportunity of climate finance. So as we speak about the growth of sector in Kenya, we've seen that the opportunities in climate finance, that companies are really relying on this opportunity to grow their businesses or improve their business model. And as we come to an end, we've also been able to map what drives the growth, and it is important that we understand end user perspectives when it comes to productive use of energy and ensuring that we actually provide access or withdraw economic benefits from the use of energy, and of course maximizing impacts. So it's important that you understand the end user willingness to invest in technology, end user ability to invest in technology, so looking at financial institutions ready to provide finance, but also we've seen that it is possible to have existence of suitable, actually Kenya having suitable payment modalities have really enabled quite a number of end users to use these technologies. Of course, there are other issues, like for example, the ability to derive benefits for the technology. So we've seen quite a number of farmers being able to derive technology, and basically they're able to produce more and therefore sell more, but also being able to reduce in post-harvest losses, and therefore empowering these people all together. Of course, knowledge also drives the process, but also ability for companies to invest in operation and maintenance. So these are the lessons that we've shared today, and we want to stop there, but also draw to your attention that later on Wellington will share with you a study that actually we undertook recently, last year, to basically highlight to you that indeed the productive use space is growing, but we need to understand better so that we work with all partners to grow the space and allow especially those people without energy access to not only access it, but also draw in livelihoods out of the various technologies that they have. So Wellington, I'd like to stop there and hand over to the next speaker.
I just shared the link to your study, which is quite amazing, because showing this complexity that you try to summarize in so a few slides. Thank you for that. It is, I think, I will simplify very sorry for simplifying, but your presentation very well illustrated the complexity that emerged when you address the multiple use cases that people can have in their livelihoods, and that's quite very clear. And also the very interesting case of Kenya, where we probably a lot of very interesting lessons for other countries on how to promote the emergence of that kind of sector. Thank you very much, Victor. I would like to give the floor directly to our next speaker, Temitope Udo-Affia, who is Technical Assistance Coordinator for Off-Grid Regulation and Market Development in GET.transform. Temitope had a lot of actually long experience in advising governments and larger organizations in the development and implementation of energy access programs. So it is. I would like to and one of the very interesting things, your team has recently published a very informative report in which you assessed the current state of the productive uses sectors, in particular in Africa, as I remember, and you identify very interesting, so like the challenges for upscaling. It would be nice if you can give us a little bit of insights from your report. Thank you for being with us, Temi.
Thank you, everyone. Can you see me? Can you see my screen now?
Yes, we see the screen now. Oh, the presentation, the presentator modus is that.
But can you see the presentation now also?
Yeah, yeah,
okay.
And we see also the next slide that will come. Yeah.
Oh, okay, okay, okay.
We can go in that way if it's okay for you. Or no, or because we can see also your notes.
Technical issues. Do you see the? Give me 1 second, please.
Yes.
This is what I will do.
Nice. We have it now.
Now it's in mode.
Perfect. Yeah.
Okay. A lot of confusion going on here. Apologies. 1 second, please.
We are now back to the notes.
Now back to the presentation mode. Would you be able to share it instead?
Yes, and we can do it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Let me.
Okay.
Give me just 1 minute, and we will put it in the screen. So, and then. Yeah. So you just say me when to click the next one.
Okay,
Thanks, Temi, for being with us.
Thank you, Vincent. So thank you, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. It's nice to present a summary of some of the work that we have been doing in GET.transform. So today I will be presenting on the paper that we recently published on energy for rural industrialization, and specifically what we are also calling productive use 2.0, and some of the new scaling opportunities and innovations in the sector. The next slide. So GET.transform, we are a European driven global program in GIZ, and we basically work on supporting our national and regional partners both in Latin America and Africa to give them or support them in developing the tools, frameworks, incentives for their energy transitions. And we do that through providing advisory services both in-house and with technical consultants. And we currently have 4 work streams. One of those work streams is long-term energy planning, where we work with those partners on designing energy scenarios and what type of energy mix are they going to use to meet their energy objectives. We also have on-grid regulation and market development, where we support the partners on developing framework and regulation for on-grid. We then have a renewable energy grid integration work stream, which is a bit more technical, and we look at what does the government need to implement technically to feed in renewable energy into the grid. And then finally, the work stream which I coordinate is the off-grid regulation and market development, where we are working on different mini-grid frameworks, regulations, incentives, and impact monitoring. The next slide, please. So we work in various countries, especially in Africa. We are working in Uganda and Mozambique, Eswatini, and soon to work in Lesotho. And then at the regional level, we currently work with the African Union, the African Union Commission, ALDA, NEPAD, and the African Forum for Utility Regulators. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, in off-grid, we are working on frameworks where we support electricity regulators in developing regulation and legal instruments for mini-grids. We also help them to develop tools that help them to support and plan their mini-grid interventions. We work on incentive mechanisms, so auction mechanisms, public risk mitigation frameworks, tax and fiscal incentives. And finally, most recently, which is also where productive use fits in, we are looking at designing tools and frameworks that can support the scale-up of business models for productive use of energy, as well as a special focus on impact monitoring and monitoring some of the gender, economic, social, health impact of electricity access and productive use projects. Next slide, please. So for the definition and why we call it PUE 2.0 or Energy for Rural Industrialization, we throughout the study, we realized that PUE should not just be viewed in itself as an input for electrification, but rather an objective on its own. So traditionally, PUE is often linked to the profitability of an existing renewable energy system or business model for rural electrification. And the goal is usually how to grow the load capacities within the electricity system. But, and then a lot of times when energy planning is being done for electricity access, is usually based on the estimated demand in the community. So usually how many households and how many small scale and medium enterprises are going to consume this energy. And then this is usually then used to choose what type of technology will be used for electrification, whether it is grid extension, mini-grid or standalone power supply. And then PUE is then usually only typically considered as a promotion strategy to increase electricity consumption in the preselected technology. However, we've come to realize that economic activity should be the objective of electrification, and electrification is only one of those tools that can lead to rural development or increased economic activity. And PUE should be considered on its own as a measure, amongst other things, including electrification that can strengthen local economies. So increasingly, and while we were doing the research for the report and the study, we also saw that a lot of companies now refer to themselves as energy-enabled businesses rather than saying they work on PUE technologies. Next slide, please. So we identified some of the barriers to scaling PUE, as I just explained the definition is, and one of those barriers is end user uptake barriers, where in terms of market linkages, we're seeing that there's limited demand and poor market linkages because the demand for rural produce is not automatically unlocked because they are unable to get their produce to the larger market. So an opportunity we saw for future programs, PUE promotion and programs, is there needs to be a strong focus on assessing the level of demand for those products that are being created through the PUE activity, and a lot of focus on the market linkage and value chain of the different commodities. We also identified that there was limited availability of PUE equipment, with a lot of hardware suppliers and hardware stores generally located in larger cities, larger towns. And even in cases where they are available in rural areas, sometimes the quality of the equipment is not always guaranteed, or there's no after-sales support. And typically we find that PUE programs and equipment where things are actually working are generally provided by donors and NGOs, and the range of available equipment is not always market driven. Rather, there's always a focus on certain technologies because there are a lot of donor driven programs. There's also high upfronts of the equipment cost and low affordability of the end user or distributor or purchaser of the equipment. Along those lines as well, there is a problem when it comes to consumer credits, with low access to consumer credits and high interest rates. And we find a lot of the times that there's limited outreach of banks in rural areas. Even microfinance banks are not sometimes in rural areas. And then the loans that are available are usually short tenured, high collateral, high interest rates loans. And although some PUE companies have developed finance solutions, they themselves require capital at an affordable rate to continue to provide those solutions. Another barrier we identified is the lack of flexible finance instruments. Here, there's a limited amount of private sector actors, even with all the donor PUE funds coming up. There's limited absorption in the markets with limited hardware suppliers, limited user level applicants. We also find that in the finance space, there's an over-reliance on result-based finance and result-based disbursements. And while RBF is good because it does encourage economies of scale, that upfront capital required to commence or raise the investments, the capital for PUE investments is missing. We see this especially when it comes to, for example, hardware suppliers and a lot of mini-grid developers who are beginning to act as PUE distributors and service providers, not having that concessional financing to bridge the gap. And we also have cases where there's a requirement of working capital to pre-finance some of the business revenues and RBF cash flows that will be required. Finally, as in the case of the low access to consumer credit, financing instruments are not suitable for small and medium scale enterprises, and they share many of the same issues with consumer credit. And also, PUE business models are usually at a smaller micro scale, and lenders usually find the ticket sizes to be quite small compared to the management costs of disbursing the loan. The next slide. So we also identified technical and capacity challenges where there's not a lot of benchmark data and use data and company performance, not only just for the end user, but also companies that are operating in the PUE space. And so it's difficult to get data on end use uptake, what have been the loan repayments, what have been the equity returns, etc., to even make further decisions in accessing loans. And we also see sometimes there's a hesitancy in end user adoption. Maybe sometimes the end users are resistant to change in the new PUE technology being introduced. Sometimes also the equipment and available technologies are not suitable. Sometimes they're over or under engineered equipment. And sometimes the equipment are also not of the highest quality. And most importantly, we also see a lack of cross-sectoral approaches where, as I said, there's a lot of things fitting into rural development with electricity and PUE just adding to that and contributing to that. And so there's a need to look beyond the technology lens to look at the productive market prices, the access to markets, farmable land size, etc. And also to look at the nexus between other sectors like agriculture, health, finance, and as I mentioned, energy. Next slide, please. And so we have this slide that just kind of summarizes some of our thinkings of what have we seen as PUE 1.0 and what do we see as PUE 2.0 or energy for rural industrialization. So in 1.0, although good and good for exploration, there's a lot of focus on technical assistance on pilot projects, with the sector characterized by individual small-scale PUE projects, not necessarily with scalable approaches or finance mechanisms that can accelerate market development. And in 2.0, while that aspect of technical assistance is still very important, impact monitoring is still very important, there's a need for impact investments and debt instruments and financial institutions that are actually dedicated to providing loans and impact investments, concessional financing, working capital for PUE use cases. We're looking at different types of PUE use cases. The two most interesting ones that we were able to identify was the hardware supplier model, where there's a hardware manufacturer, and then down the value chain as well, there's wholesalers, retailers, distributors, system developers, and then there's the service provider as well, who provides the equipment or the use of the equipment as a service to rural businesses. And so there's different types of financing that is needed for this, such as working capital, concessional loans, capital loans, even outside of RBF. Next slide, please. And so we invite everyone also to contribute to the ongoing dialogue on how to scale up PUE or energy for rural industrialization. The paper that we developed is not comprehensive at all, and we're seeking for practitioners to contribute your view through guest articles in Sun Connect, or contribute your view by using the hashtag Energy for Rural Industrialization or E4RI on LinkedIn and Twitter. And through the dialogue, we hope that maybe there will be cases and advocacy to make a shift from the thinking of PUE as an input to electrification, but rather having it as its own objective and input into economic development and rural industrialization. Next slide, please.
Thanks, Temi. And thanks for that. That could be actually a kind of last statement for our webinar. So, like, thinking productive use of energy as economic development or rural industrialization tool. That's nice. Thank you very much. I know that we start a little bit later, so but I will still will like to have some time for discussion and for taking some of the questions of our audience. Also, please use the chat for that, and I will invite you, all of you, to come to the stage, please. Luciana, Victor, and Temi, come. Turn on your cameras. Thank you for being with us again. I see a number of let me say contradictions or difficulties of the space. There is a lot of opportunities, even this idea of rural industrialization that Temitope has raised. Temi, can you come in? Yeah, no, Luciana is. No, Luciana, we don't have doesn't have a video. Okay.
But I'm here. Sorry.
But you are there. Yeah. Thank you, Luciana. For if it's okay for you, we can stay like 5 to 6 minutes still, because I would like to point out a couple of let me say difficulties, contradictions that were rising from your presentation. For example, Luciana, from Hualhaina in the south of Argentina to Buenos Aires, where you are located. Actually, there is. I took a look on Google Maps. It's like 1,700 kilometers, which is something like going from Kisumu to Addis Ababa in Ethiopia. It's a huge distance. So how was your strategy to ensure that the energy systems that you install will have enough maintenance? Because especially because wind turbines are very known for the relatively high need for maintenance. How can you talk a little bit about it? 1 minute.
Yes. Well, that's why we created these local maintenance groups. We are very conscious of the need of maintenance of these systems. So we work with the local technical institutions and with the creation of these maintenance local groups, because they go to the producers and to the installations twice a year at least, but when we are installing the projects, more than twice a year, like once a month. So we have this close view to the an assessment, not assessment, the accompaniment of the producers during all the installations, and they started to the management of the production and the use of the energy and water pumping technology. So now, seeing the Temi presentation, we already know about the challenges, but now we are awareness of more barriers we have to break, sorry, to arrive to this PUE successful project. So thanks, Temi, and thanks, Victor, for your presentations.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting your approach, that you have been collaborating with these schools, technical schools, already for years. It's not something like started now, no? Technical schools in the regions.
Yes, and also the collaboration with INTA is mainly support for us, because they are they have agencies, local agencies, and they manage the production. They know the production knowledge. Our challenges is expand our knowledge to new other areas, like the production, the finance, the marketing, and all these areas. So we need more people and more institutions to do that.
Yeah, and thanks for that, but because I was also thinking probably this will be for all of you, but probably Temi first, your ideas. We, as Luciana is mentioning now, when these innovative entrepreneurs like 500 RPM, they have also commercially some models. When they are approaching, when I'm going more close to the productive activities and the market characteristics of the users, they at the same time are moving away from the pure energy entrepreneurship business. And as Luciana just mentioned, they are like confronted to learn or to deal with other sectors, which has other technical, economic, and even political infrastructures. How do you see how are entrepreneurs from your interviews dealing with this challenge, or how are ways for supporting these kinds of innovative people in this?
Thanks, Wellington. So yes, so this was why we also had some recommendations in our report based on some of these questions with the entrepreneurs, especially like for entrepreneurs that maybe, as you said, they were standalone system or solar home system sellers, now converting some of their business into equipment providers, and also with the mini grids as well. And here, this is why I said, while we are wanting to encourage the private sector and bring in more innovative finance, here you cannot ignore the importance of technical assistance, government support, and donor support, because you can't expect that it is going to be the private sector that is then going to bring in all the necessary aspects, not just on their business concern, but then to also boost the economies, or boost the value chain, or create those market linkages for whatever the PUE equipment is supporting. And so that's why I also mentioned that there needs to be a strong cross-sectoral approach and lens to the way PUE programs and initiatives are designed. And I don't think the expectation should be on the private sector to then look at how the end use products or the end user can have market linkages to, or bigger markets to increase the demand of the products. It still needs technical assistance, and also the end users I've seen cases where there's also an expectation of the private sector to then start identifying PUE end users or training the end users in being able to adopt new appliances and change behavior, and that's also difficult. Here also there needs to be upskilling of end users, and it cannot be the private sector doing that as well. And perhaps strong coordination with, TVET programs like technical vocational enterprise programs, where those type of PUE promotion initiatives already have TVET components incorporated, where end users can have upskilling. And then also there's the TA component to those PUE companies themselves, like that are adopting new business models. There needs to be a lot of TA to those developers, operators, solar home system providers that are moving their business concerns to distribution or hardware supply, where donors and programs are helping them in coming up with business models, financial models, identifying risk and mitigation measures, and also supporting the investors in being able to carry out due diligence on those companies. So I hope I've been able to answer your question, Wellington, somehow.
Well, a lot of ideas, yeah. So I think it's difficult to put all in that, but probably this idea that you already raised in your presentation is cross-sectoral partnerships. It's like making alliances, a little bit probably in very small case of Luciana, how they partner with INTA and with this school, etc. But of course, in a program that is national, it will require like different types of organizations. Probably, I don't know, Victor. If, I would like to. I think I'm sure that you have also some ideas on that. But before, I will also raise another question that probably you can better give us your perspective from Kenya. I will put it that way. So we see this call for accelerating, scaling up of businesses, also in productive use of energies. But you provide us an overview of how complex and how multiple of use cases there are, and how different technical solutions and also business models for that. So my question is a little bit, so is there not a kind of contradiction? So, or maybe put it in another way, is there already mature technical solutions for all those cases that are standard that can be, let me say, deployed and scale up already? Or is there still some need for promoting technical innovation still for some cases? I don't know, how is the case in Kenya?
Yeah, thanks, Michael. And I think I want to congratulate Temi for that publication. We are now already talking about PUE 2.0. I think for our case, we are still at 1.0, where for the Kenyan market, it's still at 1.0, where we are, the market is trying out, there are different innovations, quite a number of technologies being innovated, but also we've seen quite a number of also other technologies that are quite at an advanced stage. For example, the solar water pumping, and we are happy that the Verisol quality processes is also able to support this in the Kenyan market. But still, at the same time, we are seeing cases whereby very nascent, it's a very not well understood sector, or in terms of applications, not very well understood, and therefore very nascent. But at the same time, we've seen a case whereby some companies are basically very new in the market, and therefore they do not understand how to go about certain business models, and therefore we have to promote peer-to-peer learning, but also look at what Temi has really alluded to, technical assistance, so that we grow these companies to be bigger, to actually crack the market. Going back to your question, Michael, I think, yes, I'll want to say that for the Kenyan case, it's still very, very unique. Actually, we are at a point when we are trying to promote these technologies, of course, through market-based approaches. We are no longer looking at subsidies. We want to see how private sector could actually invest better, but also produce technologies that work for the end users. And therefore, just to sum it up, it's not a silver bullet that we have one solution addressing all the challenges that we do have. So while we see some technologies have really, actually, recently we had a talk with the private sector in Kenya, and they did mention that, for example, for solar water pumping, and drawing cases or lessons from Kenya, that particular sector has really grown. But when it comes to other sectors like post-harvest loss handling, we are still trialing, energy as a cooling service. And I'm happy that also Temi, through the report, has proposed way to scale up this particular model, but also looking at other applications. For example, we have new companies that are setting very small units up to 120, watts technologies that can be used for productive uses. So it's a mixed bag of approaches. Wellington, as I respond back to you, the lessons that we are learning from Kenya is that it's practical, yet a majority of Kenyans are now enjoying access to clean energy. The key thing that we want to look at is now how to make it productive, because beyond lighting and beyond charging their phones and having television sets in their houses, how do we empower these households through this technology? So that is the main thing, and I'm happy to connect with Temi and see how we do this. In fact, in my closing statement, I want to say that all our studies have been made possible through funding from GEZ, and happy to see that GET.Invest is also working in the same modalities, and happy to also collaborate further and see how we can not only grow the PUE sector, but also look at the lessons that we can share with other countries as they embark in these new frontiers.
Thank you, Richard. Happy to carry on the conversation also.
Yeah, that's also the idea of this seminar. So like going into new networks, etc., and create, or probably bringing people again together. And thank you very much. We managed. We have. It's the first time that we have so multiple technical difficulties. But thank you for your patience and for your knowledge. I would like just to close probably with some of statements from you. Let's think productive use energy as an opportunity for going into economic development and rural industrialization. As Victor highlighted, for that we need to understand much better the use cases, let me say in that way, or the economic circumstances and opportunities of the users. So it will need to go out of our energy perspective, so only technical perspective, as Victor put it. Probably from Luciana, we very well illustrated a one small example of how partnerships beyond the energy access can help on that. So in making this cross-sectoral linking, as was mentioned by Temi. Thank you very much to all of you. I just want to remind you that this session was recorded, and the video will be available probably today evening or morning or tomorrow. And we will have the last two seminars of this series in November and December. So don't miss these next seminars. We will have also such kind of experts on the panel. And thank you for your participation. Have a nice day.
Thank you, Wellington. Thank you all. Nice to meet you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.